Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, Spider-Woman is getting nerfed. And I think that has caused a lot of uproar in the community immediately. Much of which I don't think is exactly about Spider-Woman, as much as it is about Kabam. And number one, the way they communicate things and the way they continuously try to gaslight the players. Number two, the hypocrisy of it and, the history of the balance and effectively the disingenuity that seems to be coming from Kabam on constant basis. And my initial video about the subject was more of a first reaction type thing. And I will fully admit that as soon as I read that announcement, it genuinely got to me. Like, it felt dirty, it felt filthy. I got mad, and I think rightfully so at it. And a sense of disgust kind of came in. It's like, those. And I think that's how a lot of people feel. But at the same time, now that I reflect on it, it isn't just about Spider-Woman. A lot of things. So the first thing that I do want to discuss, because obviously the forums are absolutely on fire, and Kabam is deleting and removing posts about it. People are canceling their sigils, and not great. Not great at all. Here you can see this thread already is up to 170 some comments. And there are fights and discussions happening about it, but that's one of the first reasons why people have so much issue with this post. It's because of the balancing program being utter bullshit for a very long time. And the justification here is effectively coming. Spider-Woman as defender has a defensive attribute of 3.5 out of 5. And therefore, they're going to be nuking her because they think she's doing too well on the defense. Well, first things, they're nuking her on attack as well as defense. And if Kabam wanted to, they could have easily made this a defensive change only. As in, remove and snare from her as a defender. There are tons of abilities that work in this game just on defense, for instance. There's absolutely no reason Kabam couldn't have done that. For instance, the solution, the better post here would be defensive Spider-Woman will not have ensnare on. That's one thing. Number two, they could replace ensnare with pursuit if the ability accuracy reduction is the issue. Because ensnare does two things: reduce your ability accuracy by 30% and prevents evade. At the bare minimum, they could have just changed it to pursuit. And then you can't evade, and then there's no issue with ability accuracy, which is what they're talking about here. Or, realistically, leave ensnare and remove fumble, because fumble has no offensive use. It's only making her a rougher defender, so they could just take away the fumble, and that would make her less of a defensive threat. So everything about this feels disingenuous, whereas they're saying, like, we don't want to touch her offensively, we think she's fine, but we're gonna do this thing, and this thing doesn't make her that much of a better defender, but the change does impact her offensively a ton. So number one, the approach that Kabam here is taking is completely, half-assed and feels wrong. Number two, the justification that they're using here, the fact that she's too good on defense. And at the same time, a lot of people are pointing out, serpents and whatnot. And here Kabam is going to come, oh, she's a 3.5 out of 5 in defense. And that generally is more or less how she feels. Maybe closer to 4. But there, I do want to kind of just point out a few things where, for example, Jack-o'-lantern on attack is 3.5, right? And then we can take a look at, I don't know, Destroyer. Destroyer on attack, damage department is 4. So is Kabam trying to tell me that Destroyer has more damage than Jack? Or, besides, let's check what they give Serpent. Serpent's damage is 2.5. So Serpent's damage 2.5, but Destroyer's damage is 4? Is that what they're telling me? At the same time, as Destroyer's damage is 4, we have... Where's the Juggernaut? Ah, can't find it, but Juggy has 4 in attack too. I wonder what Cassandra has, because she's not the fastest. 3.5. So Jack and Cassandra has the same amount of damage. Again, I kind of will... Destroyer having more damage than Jack? Really? But I showed you these things as an example that all of those ratings are made up and arbitrary anyways. And Kabam isn't, sticking to them when they don't want to or when they can't be asked. Because with this type of argument, it's not only that Serpent should have been nerfed, it's also very well implied that Destroyer should have been significantly buffed offensively for his damage rating to actually reflect that 4, right? But they didn't do that because that would help the players and it would not help them. So it's not like they keep strictly to these ratings, at the very least when they don't want to. These ratings are just completely arbitrary, made up things to begin with. But even if they decided to keep strictly to them, they just don't in reality. So I don't want to hear anything about meant to be 3.5 out of 5. It's like, yeah, Destroyer's meant to be fucking 4 on attack. And therefore, we're immediately going back to the idea of like, how is she too rough on defense? Well, very few people are actually, actively complaining about her. And then, champions like Bullseye, Enchantress, Serpent, and, God knows what else, Dark Phoenix. Like, if Dark Phoenix doesn't get nerfed, then I don't fucking know what. But they will never touch Dark Phoenix because she was effectively sold for 1k. So there you go. The gaslighting. The way Kabam approaches this. Everything about this post is kind of anger-inducing. Number one, with the idea that they're not touching her offensively, or her offensive output is fine. But defense is the issue, and that's why the big change. Number two, the way they're doing the defense. Number three, the justification of it. She doesn't fit this imaginary number that we made up here. And it just feels dirty, underhanded, filthy, wrong. So the gaslighting is definitely the big problem here. And I think the third big point is what's bringing out all these, reactions out of the community is general state of the game and the current atmosphere and, the amount of crap that's going wrong with the game. As I said in my previous video, recently it absolutely feels like when Kabam is making a decision, they always make the worst one for the players. And that type of decision making has been visible for a while, but now it's impossible to escape. A good example here, we can start with the way relics were introduced in a game. Have you guys noticed that every relic interaction is made it so it's worse for the players? Right? Like to explain, for instance, when you're using Omega Red and you activate relic, it is counting it as you not being close to the opponent and your spores are falling off. Right? However, when you're fighting against Mephisto and you use a relic, it is counting you as close to opponent for you to still take damage. Or the same things can be said about Odin and any other champion, or even with Korg. When you use relic, strike Korg, you're not removing his rock stacks. When you use relic, strike Thing, you are adding his rock stacks, up, and you have to know that. So every single one of these interactions, effectively and inherently, is just made it so it's making worse for the player when you are using the relic and when you fight, and it's beneficial to the defender that you're going up against. And it's not just the relics. like obviously all of these underhanded changes to the like prestige in the game exists not for the players, they exist for the Kabam, right? And increasing it to the top 30 is absolutely not for the benefit of the players. It is for the benefit to Kabam. Right? We can all obviously agree to that. And then the excessive champion monetization, where so many of the champions are just never entering the base pool, basically, because they have been put under paywalls or special events and stuff like that, and there's no set schedule for it. And then obviously the energy change that they tried to sneak in. And then, this event quest thing that they made, it is shit for high endgame players, because the new Elder difficulty is just bad. It takes like 5-6 hours to do, and it's harder than 9.3 with significantly more swords. But it's unplayable and abysmal to lower tier players. It's just, there's no point in doing that. So all of these things are always trending in one direction only. Worse for the player. And behind every single one of those decisions, you can just feel that there's an attempt to squeeze out some more money from players. And on top of all of these, anti-player decisions, it comes with gross mismanagement and incompetence. There are so many things that aren't tested. There are so many things that are bugged. AI is shit for many years now. That genuinely, I have never been closer to leaving the game. In fact, I can tell you honestly, like, I am actively making plans and preparations to, if not leave completely and entirely, then just step back, do maybe a couple streams a week, and do something entirely different. And yeah. And it is not because I wouldn't want to play there, because Kabam is making it borderline impossible for me to enjoy this game. I feel like every week or every other week, something gets worse in this for me. Like, even the daily quests now having the units in them. Daily quests are fine and cool, and that's a decently good change. What they try to do with energy refills and daily quests, I don't appreciate at all. But the fact that it's another thing that I feel like I have to do daily, try and get the units that I used to get before, without it being something that I have to remember. Like, I have missed several daily quests just because, I have had busy days. And it feels shit, because as soon as you miss like one or two of those, it's like two of those, that's minus 30 units. And it just feels bad. And you can clearly see that Kabam's trying me to sort of like play it more. But the end result of it is, even if I do, I enjoy it less. Because rather than me doing a whole bunch of auto playing in my free spare moments while I watch a movie or something, it's a constant thing that I have to do every day. So I find it to be worse. Even though daily quest rewards are better, the fact that I feel pressed to do that every day, to me, it doesn't feel great. And there are a ton of things like that. And I think one of the bigger ones is just the design intentions in the game behind the champions, where all the new champions are so restrictive to play. There's a ton of timer watching involved. All of the new champions basically require you to drop 2 heavy attacks, land 5 intercepts, activate, level 1, level 2, and level 1 or something. And to me, that's significantly less fun than, champions like, Ghost was, or Archangel, or whole plethora of other champions where I could basically decide, okay, level 2s and done, or, level 1 and level 2 and done, or, Hyperion, you know, if you need level 1s, use level 1s. If you need level 2s, use level 2s. If you need level 3, use level 3, because they all do completely different things. With the I don't know. That's why, for instance, I love Okoye. Just hit the opponent. Use level 1 or level 2. Fine. Great. There are so many of these champions that are absolutely not fun to use, let alone fight against. And also the new age defenders, where you have to have like 1 of 10 champions in a game if you want to have a chance. You know, this specific this kind of like RNG aspect that they're making, because previously we had defenders like Korg or Iron Man, Infinity War and whatnot, that, you know, we had a few champions that absolutely nuked them. Then we had a whole bunch of champions that you could do well in those fights, especially if you're very skilled. And then we had like a whole bunch of champions that are just bad and you shouldn't use. But you didn't feel like you have to have a specific counter if you want to do well. Like even Photon is like teetering off the edge of a good defender, because against Photon you can have a perfect counter that you can nuke the champion with. You can have a half decent counter that you can do well, and you can kind of outskill yourself during those fights. And then you have a bunch of champions that you just know will do poorly. But then we get like Serpents, and then we get Bullseyes, and then we get Entresses, and then we get whatnot, where basically, unless you have those specific champions, you're just dead. Like that, to me, by default, is not fun. Especially when one of the core modes in the game is Battlegrounds, where effectively entire game mode is built on you doing the best you can without the ideal matchups often. I think I'm veering off topic here, but I think the point is that I find the game less and less fun. And it is entirely the fault of the decisions made by Kabam and their inability to actually maintain order with the game. And I don't know. We'll see. But the game doesn't feel good right now. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about